Baby steps.
This is Infants on Thrones.
I'm looking for the further light and knowledge Father promised to send me.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
Look for the good in everyone.
Hello and welcome back to Infants on Thrones. I'm Glenn Ostland, and I want to share something with you. It's a book that I've written. Not writing, written. It's all done. And in a large part, this book has grown out of my experience over the past 13 years with this Infants on Thrones podcast. So this is the first place I'm publishing it. Not in print form, not yet, but as podcast episodes. Because this is where it all started. Sorta. I'm working as a therapist now at the Spirit of Sonora in Mesa, Arizona, under the supervision of Richard Thomas, a Jungian therapist and a former listener of Infants on Thrones. People often ask what I specialize in, and I think the best way to describe it is realignment. Richard is helping me become a soul-centered, trauma-informed clinical mental health therapist. So I work with people experiencing anxiety, depression, compulsions, addictions, really any place where life feels out of balance. My role is to listen, to hold space, and to help guide people back into resonance with their own deeper selves. It's empowerment. It's reconnecting to the parts underneath all the layers of conditioning that we've picked up along the way. Because what I've come to discover from both our science and mythology is that whatever challenge you're experiencing, you're not broken, you're rewiring. Some might even say, an infant on a throne. So welcome. And if further light and knowledge is something you once craved, well, then here is some of the fruit of that tree. And as you listen, if something in you stirs and you want to do some of this realigning work with me, I'll include a link to my Psychology Today profile in the episode description. If you live in Arizona, I can offer you therapy that might even be covered by your insurance. And if you don't live in Arizona, I can still work with you remotely as a life coach. I'm trained and experienced in both. And now,
Hang on to your hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Chapter 1. When you've done everything right and still feel wrong. Is it just me? Or does the hardest part of healing sometimes come after you've done everything right? You followed the plan. You moved. You meditated. You hydrated. You journaled. You even forgave your parents. Well, as much as you could. You created a vision board. You discovered your sun, moon, and rising signs. You updated your resume. You went on the retreat. You tried the gratitude practice. You read The Body Keeps the Score twice. You did this. You tried that. Do I really need to keep going? Maybe you feel like you did everything right, and still something feels off, like the inner weather doesn't match the forecast, like you're living with one foot in clarity and the other in fog. If that sounds familiar, let me offer this possibility. You're not broken. You're evolving. Dissonance isn't dysfunction. Real healing, or thriving as I prefer to call it, doesn't begin in harmony. It begins in dissonance, like molting, like leaving behind a version of yourself that once made sense, even if it was painful, and stepping into something raw, uncertain, and unfamiliar. That ache you can't quite name, that blankness behind the progress, it might not be a flaw. It might be a function. Because the most overwhelming sensations we experience aren't always signals of failure. Sometimes they're signs that a deeper system has whispered, we can't keep surviving this way. The challenge is that your system doesn't send a memo when it begins to update. It just shifts, quietly, subtly. So what feels like collapse might actually be transition. What seems like confusion might be the beginning of clarity, if you know how to listen. In every myth, there's a descent. The hero leaves the village, loses the map, stumbles into shadows, fails the first test. That's not the ending. That's the beginning, the shape-shifting, the initiation, the reconfiguration of self. So if you've ever entered a part of your life where you feel confused, contradictory, or like you don't recognize yourself anymore, maybe you're not falling apart. Maybe you're in the forest. Maybe you're evolving. Maybe you're exactly where you need to be. Certainly, you are exactly where you are. The form isn't the flaw. This may be the most important idea I will offer in this book. Don't get stuck on the form. Look to the function. We'll be exploring trauma, identity, belief, behavior, and belonging, each one complex, often messy, but complexity lives in disguise. You might see anxiety, addiction, perfectionism, aggression, dissociation, or even spirituality, and assume they're different problems. But they may just be different expressions of the same function. That's why I invite you to hold this question gently. What is this doing for me? What job did it once serve? Could it be an adaptive survival response? Supportive once, even if unsustainable now. A bedtime story about function. When my oldest daughter was born, her mother and I would sing her to sleep. That was the function. Soothe her nervous system. Help her feel safe enough to rest. We had different versions of the same song. Little old house in the middle of the woods. I sang, little old man by the window stood, saw a little rabbit hopping by, knocking at the door. Help me, help me, help, he said, or that hunter will shoot me dead. Come, little rabbit, come with me, happy we will be. And her version was, little old house in the middle of the woods, nice old man by the window stood, saw a rabbit hopping by, knocking at the door. And the rest was the same. But those two little details, they bothered me. They weren't right. We had different lyrics, different rhythms, and we argued about which one was right. But our daughter, she didn't care. She wasn't editing our performance. She was receiving rhythm, co-regulation, comfort. The form, our two versions, wasn't the point. The function was what mattered. And in the noise and static and distortions of our disagreements, that truth got lost. And, if I'm being honest, my oldest child still holds echoes of that parental conflict and distortion in their nervous system today. Don't have a little fight was one of the first phrases they learned to express. That story may seem small, but it's the lens I want you to carry forward, because the distinction between form and function is a thread that winds through every chapter of this book, and unless you're looking for it, it's easy to miss. So let me show you what I mean with a couple of examples. Example 1, when kindness is a defense. In the rehearsal, Season 2, Episode 2, Nathan Fielder stages a mock singing competition judged by real airline pilots. One pilot, a woman, stands out. She's warm, validating, likable, even when delivering bad news. Later, we see her outside the experiment, responding to invasive comments and boundary violations from male coworkers with that same practiced softness. Not because she's fake, but because she's adapted. The smile is armor. The calm is a shield. Her emotional fluency isn't just personality, it's protection. From the outside, it looks like kindness, but beneath it, the function is survival. That's the wisdom of function. Example 2, when the habit keeps changing. Maybe you've been struggling lately, feeling unmotivated. So you start drinking more. Then you cut back. Then you start vaping. Then scrolling. Then gambling. Then compulsive cleaning. The behaviors change. The need doesn't. It's all trying to soothe something, or avoid something, or regulate something. The form evolves. The function persists. And until the function is seen, not shamed, but understood, the form will keep shifting, asking to be heard. A system that sends signals. You are a system: mind, body, spirit, belief, memory. When something shifts inside, your system sends signals. You say, "I'm fine," while your jaw clenches, your stomach flips, your sleep disintegrates. These aren't malfunctions. They're messages. Your symptoms may be your soul trying to speak. Your fatigue might be protest. Your confusion might be a compass. What if you start asking what these signals are trying to preserve, protect, or point toward? Try this. You are a planet, and like any planet, you have weather. Sometimes it's clear skies. Sometimes it's storm. Sometimes fog descends without warning. But weather doesn't mean the planet is broken. It means the climate is shifting. The same is true for your inner world. Every emotional storm isn't a pathology. Sometimes it's an adaptation, a transition, a system learning to respond to new terrain. What if it's not all yours? Many people right now aren't just tired, they're untethered. Not just anxious, but existentially saturated. Not all of it belongs to you. You are a relational being, shaped in connection, regulated through connection. Some of what you feel may be inherited, shared, transmitted through proximity or field. That doesn't make it less real. It means your body is listening, not just to your own history, but to the nervous systems around you. But the response you choose, that's still yours. If this chapter has one invitation, it's this. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" ask, "What's trying to emerge through me?" Sometimes the exhaustion is overperformance shutting down. Sometimes the apathy is grief. Sometimes the chaos is coherence beginning to take shape. A dragonfly knows. If you need an image of transformation, picture this. A dragonfly doesn't begin its life flying through the sky. It starts underwater, as a nymph, armored, muddied, moving by instinct. It doesn't even know the sky exists. Then something inside it stirs. It climbs. Its skin cracks. Wings unfurl. It becomes something entirely new. And once it flies, it never returns to the water. You began as two cells, one sperm, one egg, floating in fluid, unaware of air or speech or gravity. Something in you stirred. You multiplied. You grew. Then came the rupture, the gasp, the birth. You changed forms, and you've been changing ever since. Not in a straight line, but in spirals. You absorb, you adapt, you reshape. That's not failure. That's evolution. That's the function. If you looked at a dragonfly nymph buried in the mud and someone whispered, "This creature was built for flight," you might doubt it, because you'd be looking at the form, not the function. You wouldn't see the genetic blueprint, the encoded wisdom within, the wings waiting. But they're there, just beneath the surface. And maybe, just maybe, that's true for you too. You're not broken. You're becoming someone your past self couldn't imagine yet. And that's not failure, that's flight. This is where it begins.
Thank you for listening to Infants on Thrones.